Oh, hi. This is Summer Kennard, and I'm the author of the book Of Such is the Kingdom, A Practical Theology of Disability. Now, it's a practical theology because it is not just theology, which it is, but it also tells you how to apply the principles to your local church. So that's what makes it practical. And I also interviewed about 400 people to write that book. So it has a lot of stories from a lot of people. I'm here today, and I may look a little bit angry, and I really kind of am right now. Um, One of the things that's happened since I published this book about a little over a year ago, is that I've gotten a lot of beautiful fan mail from people. They're not necessarily going to post reviews online because disability can be a very intimate thing, and our experiences of it can be very intimate. So, but people do write me a lot of emails, and I've received a lot of beautiful letters from people who have disabilities, especially invisible ones. And some of my favorite ones are from monastics, and then there are other ones that are also equally beautiful and sometimes incredibly painful to read from families who have been rejected by the church. Now, whenever I wrote the book, I didn't put very much in the book about rejection. I wanted to focus on what you can do about it and how people can actually welcome. So there's one story in the book where we interviewed somebody whose church didn't receive them well and talked about what are some of the ways that that experience shaped that family. But most of the stories in the church in the book are ways that churches have really become the iconic community and started to look like Christ by welcoming people. Today, I received a beautiful letter that also really brought something to my heart, something that I have heard from dozens, if not hundreds, of families. And that is this phrase, my children want to know God. So just double checking that I'm not muted again. Okay, good. Because this is really important. My children want to know God. I want you to hear that. My children want to know God. This is something that so many parents have said. And the reason why we're saying it isn't just, well, oh, isn't that sweet? Oh, great. They love God. Yes, they do. But this is a problem whenever people reject those kids and tell them that they can't come to church. And I want to address something that I think is hiding behind this idea. And sometimes people say cruel or wrong things about God and about the church because they've never stopped to examine their assumptions. So I want to examine one of these assumptions today. There's a very callous, incredibly callous, and not godlike and quite cruel thing that a lot of families have heard. Um, and that is the idea that you should just go to another church. I want you to hear that. So a family has come, drawn by Christ, to your church and is in your narthex or in your lobby or is in the back of your church or in the front of your church, and their kid does something because their kid is disabled that you find slightly different than what you're used to. And so you tell that family to go to another church. First of all, there's only one church. There's only one church, and you're the spot at Christ's table where they've come to sit. Who invited them there? It would be the Lord. So I want you to reconsider, like, if you think that you are protecting the fear of God, or if you think that you are somehow trying to preserve awe in worship or some kind of holiness, and you just told someone that he invited to leave, what do you think you're doing? What do you think you are doing? That cannot honor God. That is so wicked. I'm sorry. There's this imagination that I think people have. I think they think our church runs the right way. Our church has order, or our church has pretty hymns, or we have silence in church so we could be respectful. And they have these ideas. And sometimes that's true, okay? I'm mocking it only because they make a god of it, not because it's not true. It is true that it is nice to have beauty in church. Maybe your church has beautiful stained glass windows. Maybe your church has beautiful icons. Good. If you read my book, you'll see I talk about how the space of the church teaches everyone. And that's one of the other reasons why everyone should be invited into it. Okay. That's good. But what is not good is to say to yourself, this person has slightly changed my idea of what holiness is by being here because they made a noise, or they moved in a way I didn't expect, or they were standing there staring at an icon or staring at a stained glass window and they were in my way. And I'm not talking about being in the way, or you could scooch someone out of the way if the priest is going past with incense. I'm talking about just regular people. And then what is their response? They could just go to another church. What other church? What do you imagine exists out there? I think what people think is, well, there's some other church that doesn't have these important things that I'm trying to preserve. Some church that, oh, maybe this church is not, if they don't mind at that church, the scrubby church, this one I'm imagining that has, um, the one that will welcome in these crazy weirdos, or whatever, or these people who are inconveniently in the way. That's what you're treating people as just, outcasts. I don't know if I want those kinds in my church. That's how people act, right? So, okay, you think that that's the way it is. You think that there's some other church that's less important than yours, that is less beautiful and has less sense of order and has less music and less holiness. And those are the place, that's a more appropriate place for you types, you disabled people, which is 20% of the population, by the way. Let's just put you over there. So you imagine in your head that this place is good how it is without these people. And so therefore, there's some other, scrubbier place for that sort. That's what you're thinking. But what you're not understanding is the thing that's beautiful to God is virtue. And the highest virtue is love. And your church is ugly. No matter whether it has icons, incense, bells, if it has the most beautiful choir, if your pastor has the best sermons, it doesn't matter. Your church is ugly to God. If you're throwing out disabled children, it's disgusting. There's nothing good about it because you have dishonored the icon of Christ. It's like you're spitting on him and saying, "Get out of my place. Get out of your church, Christ." There's only one body, and it's Christ's body. There's only one church, and it's Christ's church. And if you dare to pluck someone who he's called out of his hand and cast them out of that church because you think that your version of beauty or goodness is better than God's, you should tremble down to the dust and repent. And that's all I have to say about that.